All right, guys, I was glad to be here in Tulsa. You know, one of the things I want to talk to you about today, pre-spawn rocky reservoirs. That's going to be the first of my two seminars for the day. And one of the things I want to tell you a little bit of backdrop about this story. And you know, a lot of the reservoirs, maybe not necessarily right around here in the Tulsa area, but a lot of the stuff just kind of like a little bit northeast of you guys, like starting probably with Grand. And I know that you guys, especially Jason back there, he'll be able to know exactly what every lake around here is because he's grew up around here his whole life. But when you start getting up there from like Grand and then Table Rock and Beaver and all that stuff, the kind of the stuff we're going to talk about today is really going to help you in the pre-spawn time around some of those reservoirs. Now you can definitely take some of this, the general ideas of what we're going to go through over the next 45 minutes. You can take some of this to even the lowland reservoirs right here around the Tulsa area. But what we're going to kind of concentrate on is some of those deeper, rockier things, you know, like I said, the Table Rocks and Beavers and stuff like that. As for my 22 years career, these type of reservoirs were kind of a thorn in my side. You know, I grew up in Maryland fishing the Potomac River and some of the smaller inland lakes around there. And you know, there's a lot of grass in the Potomac River, a lot of grass in our smaller inland lakes. And then of course I moved to Florida, and that's where most people know me from. I've been living there since the early 2000s, and you know, it's a lot of grass fishing down there. But for 22 years I toured around, made my living as a touring pro, and this was a real thorn in my side for a long time. You know, I fished the FLW Tour for a lot of years. I fished the Bassmaster Top 100, Top 150s and Bassmaster Tour for a couple of years, but mostly FLW. And FLW always made stops on Table Rock. They always we went to Beaver Lake. And, you know, one of the funny things about, I'll tell you how much of a thorn in my side Beaver Lake was. One year on the FLW Tour, I don't remember exactly which year it was, but the tour started out, very first tournament of the year was at Beaver Lake. And I went there, showed up at Beaver Lake. I had all what I thought I needed to have. I had my wiggle warts and I had everything ready to go. I thought I found a bunch of fish up the river. 15-inch limit up there. Go up there, fish around. First day of the tournament, I catch like 40 bass. Goose egg. None of them were 15 inches. Decide the next day I'm going all the way down the other end of the lake, flail around, same thing, catch a bunch of bass, don't catch any keepers. I double zero on the first tournament of the year in the FLW Tour. Fast forward to the last tournament of the year, finish, I don't remember exactly what I finished in that event, but I ended up finishing 21st in the points with a double zero, and that's only when there were 6 events. So if I would have caught 2 bass at Beaver Lake that year, I would have won Angler of the Year. So that like, I hate that place. And hate's a strong word, guys. You know, we should embrace things, you know, like that. But yeah, I hated that place. I mean, bad. And Table Rock wasn't much better to me. So anyway, before I even start telling you how I figured out how to catch these fish, I just wanted to preface that by telling you how much these places were a thorn in my side. And once I finally figured out this deal, how I just kept being able to bounce and go. And it was like the 4 years ago it was, I almost won Beaver Lake. Did really good at Table Rock a couple of times. Like, you know, it really turned around. And once I figured this thing out, it was something that I could take to any of those deep, clear reservoirs in the pre-spawn. Not necessarily clear reservoirs. I've done it on dirty reservoirs too, but just, you know, those deeper rocky reservoirs. But so anyway, with that being said, I want to tell you kind of what I found out, and it doesn't go along with stuff you typically read in bass magazines or websites or anything. What I kind of figured out, and I'm gonna draw this out a little bit, but it was fishing bluffs. But this is much more technical than just driving down the lake and going, oh, there's a bluff, let's go flail something over there and catch them. Oh, there's another one. That's not what it was about. And like I said, time to fish bluffs, but not these. Main Lake was not the deal. And this, like I said, this took a couple of years of kind of figuring this whole thing out before it worked out. But what I found in the pre-spawn, if you went and fished main lake bluffs like this, don't get me wrong, you may catch a big smallmouth, maybe if, you know, one's trying to spawn on one of those little ledges or whatever. You probably are going to catch a bunch of little spotted bass, you know, on a bluff like that. But this is not what I'm talking about, targeting big fish and big largemouth in the pre-spawn. I'll go to the next one. More like this kind of stuff is what I'm talking about. Going back, way back in a creek, as far back as you can get, and finding a little bluff back in there. This, once I started doing this, this really started working for me, and I was able to catch big largemouth doing this. And don't get me wrong, like there's...
It's Mike Iaconelli. This is Bass U TV.
Here's what's awesome about Bass U TV.
You get the top instructors.
Real tools that help you catch more fish consistently.
And that's why you want to check out Bass U TV.
Join the Bass U family.
Welcome to Bass U TV.